Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to be here attending this lecture. Firefighter tokens are an unusual occurrence in many countries, well, except perhaps for some souvenir tokens. But the kind of tokens with some trade value associated are unheard of for many collectors. So why this theme? Because in some cases, just as it happens in Portugal, firefighter tokens, while not very abundant, form a whole group with interesting background history and a curious diversity of uses. Let me present what we believe to be the first firefighter tokens in Portugal. This is one of those rare cases where a token is officially recognized, since it had legal authorization by the state in 1865. Well, while I walk you through this story, I will let you guess what this one was used for. Please write it on the chat window. It was minted for the General Inspection of Fires from Lisbon, the institution that supervised all aspects of fire security and permits, as well as fire brigades, and they responded directly to the City Council. You can notice that Lisbon is not mentioned in the token, and that is because, apparently, it was the only general inspection of the time. We can find several variants, often with very small differences. Nonetheless, it shows us that they were in use for a long period. I won't bore you describing the details. Most interesting is to know what they are used for. Paying water bearers, also known as water carriers. Period writings tell us that there were 5,000 tokens made at the National Mint to be distributed to water carriers at the time of the fires, and they were handed over to the Lisbon City Council. Now, if we are thinking of motorized water carriers, you are wrong. We are talking about the 19th century. The water carriers were these guys. A large water tender vehicle, also known as tanker, was impossible at the time as it had to be pushed by horses. To make it worse, Lisbon is called the City of Seven Hills, just like Rome. At the time, it was common to see men selling water on the street from small barrels. When a fire alarm sounded, those were the ones called to assist the firefighters. It was a tough job. These men had to wait in line to fill their barrel at the public fountains, and they carried it to wherever the water was needed. They had to be strong men. They were also known for their short temper and for being prone to fights between them and the others. It is easy to imagine the chaos between fighting the fire and fighting the water carriers waiting to be paid. So the tokens were used to pay the water carrier on the spot, making the process much faster and more organized. Afterwards, the seller will go on to the office or to the city council to exchange the token for real money at the current rate. Other main cities started their own general inspection of fires and minted their own tokens. In some smaller towns, the fire brigades took the initiative. In these cases, we do not know when the tokens were minted. We know these kinds of tokens existed in Porto, Guimarães and Vizela. Curiously, these are all nearby cities. But then, the motorized tankers arrived, and one would expect the firefighters to abandon the use of tokens. Instead, they just found another use, phone tokens. In Portugal, there was only one public token for public phones ever minted, and it was a very short-lived one, since the public phones very fastly adapted to the current coins. But firefighters seem to have been an exception. A few brigades have issued their own tokens to be used on public phones to alert the fire station in case of fire, or to ask for more men or equipment. You can notice the control number on the token. Most probably, these tokens were later returned by the operators to the fire brigades. And maybe or maybe not, they were paid for it. But the imagination of the firefighters didn't stop here. We suspect that some of the following tokens may have doubled as phone tokens, but its main use was for events. Just like today, most fire brigades were composed by volunteers. They were somewhat paid for their work, but they were not full-time jobs. They were also seriously underfunded. To survive, the brigades had to resort to fundraising events as sports competitions, fairs and feasts. In Porto, they were even granted the concession for lounges and gardens that housed cafes, cinematographs, music shows and, well, not so legal casino tables. On those events and spaces, they used trade tokens and game tokens as a means to control the money and, of course, make the client come back if they go home with some extra tokens left. The firefighters used and reused their tokens in a multitude of situations. Some tokens were stamped for reuse. Others were made as a more generic type and may have had several uses, from payment to celebratory or just a prize medal. As usual, the need sharpened ingenuity, and the firefighters' imagination created a captivating group of tokens with an exceptional diversity of uses. You can find more information on these and other Portuguese tokens on the Fórum Numismatas, where we run a project of indexing all the Portuguese value tokens. Thank you for your attention.